Halo Infinite's winter update is landing here in just a few days, and man, they have been busy posting so much stuff. There are balance changes that are coming, and some matchmaking changes I want to cover in today's video and throw my hat in the ring with some thoughts, so if you want to read the full article, it'll be linked down below. The plasma pistol is getting a little bit of a buff, so it's going to be a bit better at tracking some of its overcharged shots, and the base value for the damage has gone from 20 to 28. I think it's a good idea. Honestly, Plasma Pistol doesn't see a whole lot of play in my matches, so I'm interested to see if this will get people to pick it up off the pads a little bit more. Same thing, Pulse Carbine is getting a little bit of a buff. So essentially what they're trying to do is increase its effectiveness in short to mid-range while decreasing that effectiveness at the longer ranges so that the tune to the, close to mid-range doesn't really impact the longer range things. I think it's a good idea. Pulse Carbine is a cool concept, but one weapon I just feel is inconsistent, at least in my hands. I'm not that good with it. And so I tend to, not choose it over a weapon I know that I can consistently get kills with. Speaking of consistency, same thing. The Commando Rifle is seeing a little bit of a buff in the short ranges. What they're trying to do is help players finish off fights more efficiently, so they've increased the bullet magnetism and slightly reduced the high minimum error. They've seen in their playtests it helps players finish off targets at closer range. So, this one on the whole, I'm interested to see how it plays. Commando is a weapon that I like the concept of, but it also feels kind of inconsistent, and I guess that's to be expected. If you're not timing your shots super carefully, then you can be in a lot of trouble with it. The battle rifle. Okay, this one I'm curious what you think about in the comments below. Let me know. They are essentially nerfing it just a little bit. They love the way it feels, but they also feel like it is performing too well, making it not as rewarding as it should be. So in the update, they want to raise the skill ceiling and landing the final kill shot while reducing its effectiveness at range from the hip. So these changes should help make kills with the BR75 feel more rewarding. So headshot prioritization angle reduced, bullet magnetism angle reduced, bullet magnetism range reduced, and bullet magnetism fall off range reduced. I think this is an okay change. I like the way the battle rifle feels in Infinite, but it is clearly a laser beam of doom and it dominates the sandbox. If it's a bad one, here's the preface for all the balance changes. I think they should be updating balance more frequently than what they have been doing. And if something doesn't stick, you just revert or change something back. So I'm totally fine with this so far. The frag grenade, people are feeling that it's a bit too effective and that throwing one just before dying results in an easier trade than intended, and as such, they have increased the detonation timer by 0.2 seconds. You can shout out with your thoughts there. I do feel like nades in Infinite are fairly good. Snap sliding. So snap sliding is being removed from the game. This is not curb sliding, and honestly, I think if you want the best explanations for snap sliding, there are much more qualified people to talk about it than me. I'm somebody who got Onyx in Season 1 and I probably saw like one person ever hit a snap slide. It's not something that I implement into my gameplay, and I like the curb sliding mechanic. Again, they're not to be mixed up. I know it's a controversial change that they're removing this, and there's subsets of the community who are not pumped on it. I don't really want to throw my hat in the ring with an opinion here just purely because I don't snap slide, and I'm probably not going to integrate it into my gameplay. So I'll leave it into the comments. You guys decide on this one how you feel about it. The Disruptor is getting an increase to its magazine ammo from 10 to 12. And, that's cool. I mean, Disruptor gets usage, I feel like, more in the BTB arena rather than in the arena. Wow, that's fairly redundant there. And those are the main balance updates that they talk about. They do go in and talk about desync. They're able to replicate some of the desync issues that we are having, but they're still also providing a pretty hefty glossary of what each of the different terms are for desync and what we sort of broadly categorize as desync. If I could just on the whole say, if the game could feel better in terms of latency, that would be great. I may not have the vocabulary to describe each of the incidents, like how they're occurring, what's causing it, etc. I know they have that expertise and it's a complicated issue, but as a player, as the end user, I really just want to see the experience improve and be more comparable with other FPS games. And netcode stuff, super complicated. I respect that. So I'll leave it there and excited to hear that they are working on desync. Mouse and keyboard improvements. So I've talked about in all of my videos the last 6 months wanting some love thrown towards the mouse and keyboard world because that's what I mainly play for Halo. And they have mentioned that they are working on it. There's not a lot here in terms of specifics, exactly what they're going to do to make it feel better. So I'll read here. As players have gotten more hands-on time with the game, we've seen feedback emerge on how aiming and tracking players feels on mouse and keyboard. We know there's room for improvement and some updates are on the way. Now, these updates are cool, I guess, like Red Reticle back on PC. Yeah, I mean, that'll let you track somebody if they go behind a tree. on a controller, if you are on console, on a controller, and they go behind a tree, you can still see them, or, something that's not solid cover. And Red Radical does help, but I don't think that's like my main complaint. I think most people, it's like, hey, it just doesn't feel smooth and tracking feels kind of off compared to some of the other games in the MCC. Scroll wheel, when using a scroll wheel to swap weapons, sometimes it would double swap. We'll be updating the game, how it reads scroll wheel inputs to help reduce how often this happens. I do have to say, if you're using scroll wheel to change your weapon in an FPS game at like any competitive level, just stop doing that and like bind that to one of your number keys or a key that's easily accessible on your keyboard hand. There's like no way you can be super consistent with a scroll wheel for swapping weapons. I could be wrong. I could be proven wrong there, but I see a lot more success if you're going to swap it over to a number key. And then a walk key. And so if you're on controller, you can walk, right? You have that analog input, so you can vary the speed. Right now, you can only walk, full walk speed or crouch walk. They're going to implement a key, or they're looking at a way to implement a key so you can do a walk speed thing. Drop shot is seeing a nerf. It's going to be brought into line, so it'll be the same speed as just swapping weapons. I think that's cool. I never really liked the drop shot. That's where you fire, and instead of swapping the weapon, you drop the weapon, and it pulls the other one out a little bit faster. It seemed cool at first, but it's not really like my cup of tea. Thruster is getting a little bit of a nerf. The energy sword is also getting a little bit of a nerf. And then the competitive weapon respawn timers. So I'm going to read what they said. Throughout Halo Infinite's first HCS season, the amount of power through on-map pickups like weapons on each arena map has become a discussion point. Most competitors felt like there was too much power on the map for pickup, which allowed the matches to snowball. To help address this, we'll be reducing how quickly weapons respawn, as well as how many of each weapon can be on the map at any given time, and ranked arena. We'll share full details around these changes before they land in a future update. So this one I think is indirectly referencing the gentleman's agreement against the Mangler. If you haven't been playing competitive Halo, like the Mangler is its whole storyline of how darn good that weapon is. And yeah, it's seen some changes so far. Yet, I don't think they're ready to nerf it any further. I mean, at least reading into this section here, they're going to play with what is in the pads, how often the pads respawn, and maybe treating it more like a power weapon than rather like just something that's always available on the map. Will that fix it? I don't know. We'll have to see. In my, opinion, I think these kind of balance changes are awesome, and they should be executing these changes on a more frequent basis. I mean, especially if they get into a 3-month cadence. Do it. One of the issues with older Halo games is they waited so long before addressing balance tunes that the community were crying out for. If you're doing it at a regular interval, like every 2 or 3 months, if you make something that doesn't stick, just pull it back, right? Roll it back or try something different. When you wait basically a full year for what I believe, like, this is pretty much the most comprehensive balance change that we've had so far with Infinite, it can definitely feel a little stale at times. So hopefully we'll see these kind of updates more frequently. On the whole, I think it's pretty rad. Additionally, for the matchmaking changes, local region matchmaking is coming with a winter update. There's improved logic for CSR progression, improved rules for quitting with uneven teams, and more. The CSR changes are really cool, and I think long overdue. So I'm very excited. There's a lot of wins with what's coming in the winter update. A lot of stuff that I don't know if it's getting the attention that it should. Let me know all your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome weekend, and I will see you again very soon.